Hello, everyone. A few days ago, lots of members of the Board of Deputies of British Jews, they signed a letter which was condemnatory of the Israeli Defense Forces attacks on Gaza. And I might quote a bit of the letter from you. So the Board of Deputies of British Jews has been going since the 18th century, and well, it is like what it suggests. Okay, to represent British Jewish people. I'm not sure quite how you qualify to have a vote for it. There are dozens of members of it. But anyway, this is a part of what the letter says, that they could no longer turn a blind eye or remain silent at this renewed loss of life. That's the end of that quotation. It goes on to denounce violence against Palestinian people in the West Bank, which Israel's illegally occupied since 1967, despite UN resolutions to withdraw and so on. It was also a denunciation of the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, saying that his extremism also targets Israeli democracy. The epistle also says Israel's soul is being ripped out, and we fear the future of the Israel we love and have such close ties to, and goes on. So there are about 300 deputies, and 36 of them have signed this. It's over 10%. Now, the letter, it says towards the end, the inclination to avert our eyes is strong, as what is happening is unbearable, but our Jewish values compel us to stand up and to speak out. Okay, and so it goes on. All right, but then I'm told that anyone who criticizes any element of Israel's attacks on Gaza is anti-Semitic. Former prime ministers of Israel have denounced it. I mean, not denounced everything. They don't mind killing Hamas militants, but some of it cutting off the food aid, the mass murder of children, the willful targeting of aid workers, blowing up almost every hospital, every clinic, every school, every mosque, most of the buildings, cutting off medicine, cutting off electricity to hospitals, the wide-scale use of torture, all that kind of thing. That is not in line with Israeli morals and values. Ehud Barak, he's criticized some of it. Ehud Olmert, likewise, some retired Israeli generals, and so on, and diplomats. So anti-Semitism is never permissible, is always rebarbative, and anti-Semitism has exacerbated this kind of thing. It plays into the hands of anti-Semites. It's a bit like when Al-Qaeda or Daesh or whatever, we're going to set off a bomb. That's going to result in a spike in anti-Muslim prejudice. Now, and Islamophobia is always a bad thing, and it is exacerbated by terrorism, like anti-Irish sentiment in Great Britain or elsewhere. Is unacceptable. No one should be prejudiced against us. But of course, it gets worse if Irish ultranationalists commit violent crime. There's obviously Anglophobia, but if an English soldier were to shoot dead civilians, then that is going to aggravate Anglophobia. Surprise, surprise. We know it happens. I mean, I'm not like that, but a lot of people are closed-minded. Our prejudice is going to react in that kind of way. So unless you approve of every single death in Gaza that's been caused by the IDF, then you're an anti-Semite. So Douglas Murray will have us know that, yeah, that's right. There's a terrorist base under every single hospital, under every single school, under every single clinic, under every single mosque, and it was necessary to desecrate headstones as well. Wow. And Israeli politicians say we shouldn't allow a single grain of wheat in there. It's heart-rending. You just see these very lachrymose scenes of wailing children. It's horrific. I don't know how the doctors and nurses have managed to keep going. They're such heroes and such heroines. Wow, as though somehow cutting off food, electricity, medicine is essential for Israel's national security. This is every single crime ever committed by the IDF is self-defensive. And I realize they're not all bad people, and good people will do bad things, and that applies to Palestinians as well as to Israelis. So there's a my side bias, does not wish to be blinkered, and so on. There was a psychological experiment done about 20 years ago. I think it was Richard Dawkins referenced this one. Is giving Israeli school children some fictional text. In ancient times, there was a Chinese general, and he killed loads of civilians of a different nationality. Was this morally justified? And obviously, the majority of Israeli school children said no, it wasn't. It was immoral. You mustn't be killing civilians. And then they had exactly the same scenario, I think, for a control group. Said, was it is a Jewish general in ancient times, was that permissible? And because it was their ethnicity, they're much more like to say that. And obviously, some people who were consistent say no, it doesn't care the ethnicity doing it, the ethnicity suffering it is not right, and so on. My goodness. So, Israel is supposed to be all about human rights and liberal democracy. And I know they're kind of democratic amongst themselves, but you think about those people, the illegally occupied West Bank, and they've got no say in the laws that govern them, and they're discriminated about where they can go, where they can work, and so on. And this whole thing about being Israel being a Jewish state. So what happens to not non-Jews? Are they second-class citizens and so on? I mean, I know they can vote, some of the Supreme Court judges, and that is good, that is commendable. But obviously, there's some racists who want to take it away from them. And why do they not have enough bomb shelters? On the other hand, I realize one of the reasons they're economically on the lower tier mostly is partly because Hebrew is a foreign language to them. So I know they can learn Ivrit, but they're not necessarily going to learn it, as fluently. Arabic has got lower status, and a lot of Jewish Israelis who can speak Arabic too. But anyway, some people in the board of deputies of British Jews, they're irate. Some people are ethical, and they're going to speak up for human rights, people of any ethnicity, and they recognize that what the IDF has been doing is grossly excessive, is immoral, and is illegal. And so some people say, oh, we've got to have solidarity and we have to stick together. And this has been going on for over a year and a half. And eventually people who've got any kind of morals at all, any conscience, they're surely morally obligated to speak out, as they've rightfully done. But yeah, so Netanyahu, who will say anything that he finds distasteful, is anti-Semitism, which is really preposterous. But he's really losing friends. I'm very glad in the Republic of Ireland that we passed legislation to say we're not going to buy anything from these legally occupied settlements, because that's sort of buying stolen property. And I know Jews suffered badly down the centuries. It doesn't make it right to discriminate against Arabs or to dispossess them. And I know Jews lost a lot of their property in Egypt, in Iraq, in Algeria, Morocco, and I would like to see assessment for that, a restoration of that, and citizenship rights, people to be dual citizens, and so forth. So I recognize they've suffered, and Israel's by no means the only guilty party. There are other regimes in the region, like the Assad regime, that was a lot worse. Saudi Arabia is the sort of medieval theocratic absolute monarchy, and that's worse, and so on. Iran, they want Iran to be attacked, and okay, they will say, what about this? And the regime there is abominable. The way women are beaten to death just for wearing a hijab. These are, they don't dare, because the regime is so brittle and unpopular, and that torture is used there very promiscuously. Death penalty is used there a lot. 3 Iranian men executed recently on charges of having been spies for the Mossad. I don't know if that's true or not. Anyway, I want peace now. I want hostages, whether Palestinian or Israeli, to be released forthwith and unconditionally. I was so lucky to live in peace. So do what you can to work for peace. Thank you.